Okay, here we continue with Recap Conference Online 2021. And it's my pleasure to introduce Tobias Hofmann to you. He's the founder of the famous SAP Stammtisch Baden. And he will continue the journey that Mike took us on to bring Capsite outside the SAP supported areas. And yeah, with further ado, the stage is yours, Tobias.
Okay, thank you, Gregor, and welcome to my presentation, CAP Outside SAP. I will start directly into the topic. What I did actually was I was holding a small presentation at an internal event at Bridging IT about digitalization. And what I took actually was to take an existing process we had, and I digitalized it using CAP and OpenUI5. And this is here one of the outcomes of the presentation. So I have a CAP service and I have an application, UI5 application on top of it that is actually consuming the CAP service. So just to show it simple, it's about getting a company car. And I really like it that you can also use Swagger UI on top of the Open API on top of the CAP services now. Really makes it easier to actually understand everything what is going on, the connections and so. I really like this one. This is one of the features that I think it's going to make your architect or solution architect very happy. So now what I did was actually using a company process that is not SAP based at all. There's no SAP system behind this. Currently, I think this is more based on emails and SharePoint and documents. And I actually digitalized this and I said to me, okay, I'm going to use it via CAP. And it's not an SAP process, so it's possible to use, of course, a CAP application outside of the classical SAP context or an SAP user. You can see it's just like form-based. In the background, I have some processes or workflows running. Of course, these are SAP-based because I still like SAP, but in a theory, you don't need to have this kind of information stored in an SAP-centric environment like ECC, ERP, S4, or BTP even. Yeah? So this is a simple application. You can even add, if you want, documents to it to save them. Upload selected, works perfectly, no problem. You can do a lot of stuff actually with CAP, though it's just not about storing text. You can also store binaries, stream them, read them, delete the attachments. It's also possible, of course, to store this kind of information in the end, for instance, in an S3 bucket. CAP allows you to do a lot of different stuff. And what I also did is looking at the application performance monitoring of this kind of application. So using Elastic, I injected here the APM or the application performance monitoring tool from click traces from Elastic, just to see, okay, if it's possible to do this. And of course it's possible. CAP is based on the Node.js flavor is based on Express. So this is just I think it's one line of code you have to add, and you can actually use APM with your CAP application, do a little bit more on the front end, and you can also see how the traces perform. And so that's really, really nice. So Open is helping, Express is helping here also. And what I was actually thinking about afterwards is, okay, now I can use it for any type of problem as an API service in the background, but what's actually needed to make it possible that someone is going to accept this as a solution in a real company. Yeah? In a real company, you have a lot of people with nice titles like solution architect, product owners, enterprise architects, and most people actually get a lot of money to say no to every proposal you are doing, simply because they have to validate if what you're going to do is aligned with the company strategy. or the company, the guidelines they're actually following. And if you're actually going to a non-SAP company and say, listen, we can actually do this also with CAP, yeah, we're able to store the information also now in a PostgreSQL. We can use an UI frontend on top of it. We can use a Swagger API, though. Can we use this also for a project that has nothing to do with SAP? And in most cases, the answer normally would be no, because first question would be, okay, is it actually cloud native? Can I run it in the cloud? But does it really work with the databases? I need to have this at least in a clustered database. And what about log on, single sign on, authentication, authorization, and so on? And these are normally the points where you would say, okay, that may be a little bit complicated, but CAP is also based on open architecture, which makes this actually pretty a good tool, not only for the developer, but also for the architects, because many of those reasons to say no or reject CAP-based solutions for non-SAP scenarios, you can bust them, mystify them and say, no, it is actually possible. And this is what I'm now trying to actually show to you. So just let me take the other window to the internal display. No, didn't work. Now it did work. And what I did actually is I took the sample CAP application and I'm using the PostgreSQL adapter. So the first step is actually, can I run this in a cloud native environment? Though what I took was, okay, take the CAP application or any CAP the dummy application I have in PostgreSQL application, and I throw it into a Kubernetes environment. In my case, that is OpenShift container platform. This is already fulfilling the largest part of the cloud native part. It doesn't need to be a platform as a service. Sometimes it's just, okay, we want to have it in Kubernetes, want to have it in the cloud. And with OpenShift, you actually can go real multi-cloud. So if you set up a large OpenShift cluster, it's one instance may be running in your own Kubernetes data center. The other one may be running on Azure or on a different platform. And they can communicate with each other, and you can also distribute all these applications across the globe. The cloud native actually in that regard is not a big problem. And as you can see, here's the PostgreSQL database. Here is my CAP application that is doing actually pretty nothing. I think I even stole a dummy project from the previous speaker, but just to know that this is actually working, though this is inside from Kubernetes. You can click on it and you can see, okay, already created some dummy information here. So even the part with storing the data persistency in the Kubernetes cluster is actually working. I created this a little bit earlier. We started the pod, it's working. You can actually do this persistency and with failovers. Let me see if I prepared it actually to send a new entry, just to show you that it's actually possible to do it. Demo 1, for instance, language something, and where's the send button? So this should go to the following URL. Sending, it seemed to have worked. And if we now refresh here, we should have now 2 entries. So it's working perfectly. You can use a CAP application with a PostgreSQL database in Kubernetes. So this is the first part of the enterprise readiness. Yeah, it's possible. Big surprise. But it also is a little bit more complicated to convince enterprise architects to accept the solution. So for instance, database, if we have one pod or one server database, you don't have high availability. And this is also what you actually want to have when you are running a big application. The database, you want to sure that the data is stored and distributed. And this is what I'm going to show here. But the same dummy application with the project is now accessing a PostgreSQL cluster. So we have here the master and here the individual pods actually that are going to distribute it. The request that if one pod goes down, we don't going to lose any data because there are actually two of it. Let me show this. Details here we can do it's 2 pods. You can even add more or scale down to 1 pod if you want to use your HA availability solution. But them applies. You can access the information. Metadata works nicely. Projects, same as before. Let me also create here an additional entry. So this is gone. Body cluster test. I don't know, 1, 2, 3. And we can also send it. And of course, this is also then actually cluster test 1, 2, 3. Here it is. It's also working. You can store information without a problem inside a cluster. Just let me also show you how this actually works in a little bit more details. I'm now here connected to my one system. Let me get the pod secret. And then I'm going to start as dummy pod to connect also to the database. I'm not sure if you already have seen how the database tables are actually going to be created. Yeah, here's the new pod that's actually going to start it. And I'm now using this dummy pod to connect myself to the PostgreSQL cluster. These are the tables that are going to be created based on the CDS schema, thanks to the CDS PG connector. Great work, guys. I really like it. And we can also look at the content of the table. And if you can see, it's really inside the pod. There's no fake information. The cluster is actually working. It is going to be saved. Oh, really great. So that is another point. Let me just kill the additional pod. We don't need it any longer. Kubernetes, if it's working, is really great. For everybody that is going that wants to actually try something similar out, this is OpenShift, but it's from Red Hat CRC. I forgot the name, what it actually stands for. Code-ready containers. It's crashing all the time if you're not giving it enough RAM or CPU. So if you only assign 8 GB of RAM as a default, it's going to crash like every 30 minutes. So give it like 16 or 20 GB of RAM and 4 CPUs, and then it actually will work. So more CPU, more RAM, and OpenShift is going to work. So now we have seen, okay, with this example here, we can run it in Kubernetes. We can also take care of the data. It can be a cluster. That case here is just a proof of concept. If you have a real OpenShift cluster running or Kubernetes cluster running, these pods are distributed across your data centers with persistent storage. So it would be a real HR solution. And the next step is actually you also want to be able to ensure that people that are going to use your application have to log on. Or if you have to ensure that people are logging on. CAP supports this. It's enterprise ready. It's really a big enterprise ready solution after all. And if we take a look at the definition, how we can enforce authentication, we have a service and we just annotate it with requires authenticated user. So if you're inside BTP, most of your problems are now already solved. If you're leaving the SAP world, you are entering a world of pain when it comes to authentication with CAP. You have to write your own JavaScript to do this. You have already seen it now, I believe, in the talk with Leo. he was talking about Azure and Azure OpenID Connect, but they are using an identity token to access the application in the CAP backend. I'm doing a little bit almost the same, but different. I now have my application. Let me show it to you. Here is my application. If I access the metadata without anything, I'm not authorized, I get an error message. Perfect. CAP is my API. Let me close some windows to not get confused. So I actually need to log on and authenticate myself before. So if I have to open up the application, first step is actually doing login. This is Auth0, no Azure in that case. Auth0, one of the world's leading, I believe, OpenID Connect providers for free. So I can log on and shortcut is better. And now we're actually going to access, let me see where's the network tab, exactly, the backend service. Just a reminder, I was accessing it before, I got an authentication error, now we can access it and I actually get the information back, so this is now working. Why is it working? Because what I'm doing, I'm adding the authentication bearer to the request, as you can see here, and I can then also create new entries. As you can see here, the user that he is picking up is actually Google OAuth 2. Why? Because I treat my CAP installation as an API, which means I'm going to send an access token. Access token, if you are somewhat similar with OpenID Connect, you have two tokens. You have an ID token that contains the personal information, and you have an access token for your API. CAP actually should be an API, which also gives you the problem that the access token is opaque, which means you are not actually going to send your user ID information with it, like username or emails and so on. But it's based on OpenID, and there's a standard user. Where's my, here it is. Standard user endpoint you actually can use to retrieve that kind of information if you want to. And let me do this just here rapidly for you guys. So I take my access token, I talk with my OpenID Connect provider with the user info endpoint, I send it out there, the information, and now you can also see, even with an API access token, you can retrieve valid information about your user. Nickname, family name, and so on. And the access token only contains this kind of information here, which actually also should be enough if you're going for roles, or this information is enough for you. If not, you see the access token and get the user profile. So with that, so then how was it actually done? So how do I validate my user? How do we get this kind of information? Oh, here we are back. From JSON. So there's one line you have to add into your file to, sorry for that, your own implementation provider. Just add auth implementation server auth.js, name it whatever you want. I named it auth.js as it's written out in the documentation. And if you take a look at that file, you can see that it's still very much in a debug phase. But what I do is I use also Passport as the others that you have already seen today. And I also use here this kind of JWK-SASA module, because your access token and so on is going to be encrypted or signatured by or signed by Auth0. They have two different certificates to do this, so they are circulating. And you need this kind of module here that actually does the magic to figuring out if what kind of certificates you have available and which certificate is going to be used. The rest is pretty much a standard, like the example from Leo and the other person and one of the first presentations and the sample template provider from Gregor that he did with, I believe Volker was also involved. I'm just following it more or less. Get the information from my OpenID Connect provider, and in the end, I create an SAP CAP user somewhere. Yeah, here. Yeah, take the CAP user, assign the sub, and that sub is actually the part with Google and the number. So, and this is then used as a user ID by CAP. So also works perfectly from the point of view for security. So as you can see, basically the reasons not to use CAP for any project outside SAP from the technology perspective are inexistent. You can run it in the cloud. You can run it with a database in HA capabilities. You can use it with OpenID Connect. So just do it. Yeah, we have seen already several presentations from other people today that showed that it's possible. So just yeah, just do it.
Yeah, nice and so, excellent showcase. Hopefully that yeah, the license basically allows it, but it's not really clear. As always, open sourcing CAP makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, the license allows it. I think what we really need is more use cases. For the more use cases, we do have that demand a usage outside of SAP. I think then open sourcing it is just the natural way to go. Mm-hmm. So nice. just do it, guys. Just do it.
And also one comment from Daniel Hutzel. Yeah, it seems we need to talk. You have to teach the CAP team how the stuff is working with authentication, how things to do right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I saw it in the keynote. They are going to prepare something, right? It's also on the roadmap. So.
Yep. Currently working on OpenID.
Yeah. I saw it already, Gregor. You have a showcase at the what's it? I don't remember
CDS
the name.
Azure AD.
Yeah. Then there was Leo and Tevien. I forgot the name. Sorry. That also had a similar use case. Also done more or less. I also got into troubles when I simply took the ID token and assigned the whole ID token actually to the user context, because this actually could severely up how CAP is actually mapping these properties to the database. But it would also be great. One more step in solving and using CAP outside a very specific SAP context, because the technology is great. There's no limitation from the technology side, to be honest. Also looking at the option, for instance, to include APM or application performance monitoring to see what's happening when you click on your app, and also be able to actually follow it up to your database level. Perfect.
Have you already blocked on this application performance monitoring stuff? That would be a nice one.
I have like 30 blocks in draft.
Okay, good. I vote it up. And in representation of all the audience, which I think really enjoyed your presentation, Daniel Hutzel is saying, great and very impressive. Tobias, as said, we need to talk about several things. So reach out to Daniel.
You guys know where to find me, right?
Yeah, good. There are no questions in the queue. Thank you very much. And we give our audience a short break before, actually I have to give my presentation. So I'm introducing myself. No, I'm not introducing myself. I will be queued in by someone else. Thank you, Tobias.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. See you.
See you.